Hi, hope you're well. In these next couple of longer videos, I'm going to show you how I put together these set of cabinets and shelves really quickly by repurposing some old IKEA Billy bookcases like 32 years old and by using some brand new IKEA Metod kitchen cabinets. So why would you go for IKEA cabinets when you can just as easily make them? Well, the same reason that anybody goes to IKEA: time and money. An 800mm double and two 400mm single cabinets, a 370mm deep, cost me just £91, $100 at IKEA, whereas I worked out that it would take a full sheet of 18mm and a half a sheet of 6mm MDF to make these, and that would cost me £95, and that's just for the materials. The finished cabinets would also need painting. I knew I had enough offcuts on hand to make the doors and shelves myself. No need to pay IKEA another 90 quid for those. So having hung around IKEA Wembley for almost half an hour, waiting for the purchases to come through the system, I had them home and assembled in a fraction of that time. Say what you like about IKEA, and plenty has been said, let's be honest, but 3 carcasses put together, I won't say built, but put together in less than 10 minutes is not bad going. I would still be marking up the first sheet of MDF for cutting. That's why I've done these, because I just want it quick and easy. What I am going to do, now I've got the carcasses built, is actually measure directly off the carcass, because I don't entirely trust the measurements that I'm given. I am coming off the skirting board. I'm going to put this on a plinth up to the base of the skirting. It will come away from the wall slightly because I want to be able to feed some cables down there, and there'll be a little cutout in the shelves here too to feed the wires into the back. With the measurements confirmed, I can get back into the workshop to start making the plinth. If it's just a single cabinet, then adjustable feet work really well. But when you've got a run of cabinets, I always prefer to put them on a plinth, because once the plinth is leveled up, you can easily move the carcasses around in relation to each other. I made the plinth out of 4x1 redwood. That's Scandinavian redwood or Scots pine, not the giant sequoia variety. From redwood, simply screwed together. It's a quick and easy way to get a decent plinth, and a quick and easy way to get the internal length is to measure the required finish size off a couple of offcuts held against the end of the workpiece, and then use this as a gauge for all the subsequent cross members. The cross members go in flat where the cabinets butt together, as it gives a better chance of supporting the join. Because this plinth was going to be left in a natural finish similar to the skirting board, I covered the screw holes in the front face with plugs. These are simply cut on the drill press. I normally snap these out with a screwdriver, but I thought I'd be fancy this time and use the bandsaw, completely forgetting that I needed to change the blade. Never mind, one more cut and I'll do it next time. The plugs are just glued into the counterbores and sanded back afterwards. I put a coat of wax on the plinth just to darken it down a little bit, and then I could get it fitted. So we've got the plinth in. It's levelled lengthways, and at that end it's secured to the skirting board. The skirting board's not going to move. I know that's good. So we've got to try and fix it down this end, basically. And the way I do it, there's a couple of ways you can do it. One is to cut the carpet and go straight down to the floorboards. I prefer to be a little bit less invasive than that. I just get a block of scrap and just screw that down as hard as possible into the carpet, and then have a little leg that bears against, screwed down as well. Works well for me. That's what I'm going to do here. So a couple of points along the front, and that should be enough to give us a nice level platform to work off then. I'm using a simple wedge to level the plinth up, then I can fix the leg in place. And then with that fixed, just add a little angle bracket to make sure it doesn't wander. And do the same a little bit further up. The trick here is to make sure you go in deep enough to get a good fixing, but not so deep that you might hit a pipe. With the plinth fixed, I can get the carcasses in and clamped together, ready to measure up for the top. I'm using the maple face plywood for this, and I'm cutting it about 100mm longer and 50mm deeper than I need, leaving plenty over to scribe to the less than perfect walls. Surprising really, as this part of the house was effectively a new build. I've said in previous videos that I haven't been especially impressed with this Garnica board, and it's continuing to leave me underwhelmed. The end grains appear okay, but the long rips expose some unpleasantness in the core that I just don't expect to see in a board of this price. Okay, so bit of plywood cut up. There's no particular magic to scribing. Lots of ways you can do it. I've done a whole bunch of videos on scribing. I'll link those up down below. Really it's just a question of following the line of the wall a set distance apart. There's no shortcut to this. Offer it up, trim it, then try it. Rinse and repeat until you get a decent fit. Now, because the top is scribed to the wall, we can't use the back edge to measure from to trim the plywood to fit. So I've put tape on the underside of the top and drawn around the carcasses to show where the front edges will be, and also marked where the far edge of the wall comes on the right hand edge. Back at the workshop, I can allow an offset for the door thickness. and then cut the top down to size, getting it back into the carcasses for a final check before giving it a rub down and a quick coat of wax. While that soaks in, I'm getting the MDF for the doors cut to size, and it's always a good idea to mark them up when they're in pairs like this. I've cut some strip wood to the same height as the doors, and back at the carcasses I've marked the hinge positions on this strip. You might have heard this called a rod or a story stick. And with the rod removed, it's a simple matter to mark the hinge plate fixing positions using a cheap jig, links in the description as always, and then drill them out. Back in the workshop, I've transferred these positions to the doors using the rod. It's worth pointing out that these IKEA cabinets don't use the standard 37mm setback for their hinges, so I can't use the existing row of holes for hinges, only for shelf pins. With the positions marked on the doors, I can drill them out. I don't do enough cabinet doors these days to dedicate the drill press to them, so I'm using the Craig jig, which is okay if used within its limitations. See my full review for more details on those. And as always, it's worth identifying the door within the hinge cut. That means it stays there even when the door's painted. Using a straight edge is a great way to align a pair of hinges, and the fixing positions can be drilled out easily with a self-centering bit. Back on site now, and off camera I've fixed the carcasses through the base onto the plinth with tongue-tight screws, then screwed the carcasses together through the top shelf pin hole. Then the hinge plates can be screwed onto the carcasses. You can also hide a fixing behind the hinge plate too, if you need to. I like to fix the top plate in the central position but leave the bottom hinge plate loose on its screws. This just makes it easier to fit the door onto the hinge plate when the time comes. And that time is now. Door blanks all prepared and hinges attached. We can get them clipped onto the hinge plates, the bottom plate nipped up onto the carcass, and any slight adjustments made to the door. Incidentally, if you've ever wondered how big or small your cabinet doors should be, then keep your eyes peeled for a base cabinetry basics set of videos coming along soon, where I'll have the answer to that and many other questions. With all 4 doors sitting nicely, I can use a level to mark a reference point or datum for where the handle cutouts need to be. Then the doors can come off, the hinges removed and marked, and then we can get back to the workshop for those handles. I'm using a simple finger pull bit in a route over the guide bush, setting the template against the datum each time so the doors match. Yeah, you know what's next. It's painting time. primer undercoat first, and just by the by, these are some prime painting techniques on display here. It lets you paint both sides of a door in one hit, basically halving your drying times. Check out the previous video on painting MDF doors for the full info, or the recent short that also covers the process. I've also found time to cut the shelves for the cabinets. The double at 800mm wide is right on the limit of the span I'm comfortable with in MDF, so I'm using the maple veneered ply for this shelf but painting it white. It's a shame to cover up the face veneers, but I've no problem at all covering those edges. So after the top coat is done and dried on the doors, that's Farrow & Ball Hague Blue in an eggshell finish, by the way. Once the top coat's done and fully dried, I can get the shelves fitted and the infill at the end. I don't think I'd mentioned that before, have I? There's an infill at the end. And then the doors on the hinges, they're already marked up, remember, so they can be simply clipped onto the carcasses like before, as they've already been adjusted to fit. Ooh, so there you go. 3 little cabinets, a double and 2 singles made from IKEA carcasses in a very small and echoey room, put together really quickly and easily with a basic plywood top and some painted MDF doors. Paint's still very soft on this, so you need to be very careful with it. The top isn't fixed in place yet, because I wanted to get the power cable in and threaded through in the same way. I haven't fixed the infill in place down here either. There's still a few little bits and pieces to do, but pretty much sorted other than that. Very happy with how that's gone together. And again, you know, there's actually nothing wrong occasionally in taking the path of least resistance and using an IKEA cabinet if that suits your needs. There's things about them that I don't particularly like. They do look like kitchen cabinets on the inside with the full height row of holes. I don't like the fact that IKEA don't use a standard 37mm setback for their hinges, but I can live with that for the price that I paid and the convenience of assembling 3 cabinets in 15 minutes with no painting required at all. I have noticed there's a little drip, a little run of paint on the right-hand door there, so I'll have to redo that, but that can be for another day. I'm going to call this one done for now. Be sure to join me in the next one when I'll be repurposing those 32-year-old Billy bookcases to go above this, and we'll see how that turns out. Thanks so much for taking a look, and hopefully see you again very soon. All right, take care.